Good afternoon. We will now reconvene the regular council meeting at 1 p.m. There is no report from closed session, so we'll begin the public meeting with 8.1. The resolution open the public meeting that the public meeting be opened in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Natchoff. All in favor? That is approved. We'll look to Mr. Wilkinson for the report. Matthew, over to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, members of council and public, before you is planning report PEB 2024-39. This report recommends that bylaw number 2024-43 be approved to rezone the property at 2097 Whittington Drive from the rural employment or M2 zone to the rural employment exception 9 M2-9 zone to permit a place of entertainment, being a golf simulator, as a secondary permitted use on the property. The purpose of this public meeting is for members of the public to provide comment and ask questions related to this application. The lands subject to the application are currently zoned rural employment M2, and the existing warehouse and office space are permitted in the M2 zone. One of the existing office spaces at the front of the building has been renovated to accommodate the golf simulator. No change in the building exterior footprint is proposed as part of this application. A golf simulator is not permitted use in the M2 zone. As such, a zoning bylaw amendment is required to permit the use. As drafted, bylaw number 2024-43 will rezone the subject property from the rural employment M2 zone to the rural employment exception 9 zone to permit the place of entertainment being a secondary permitted use on the property. The place of entertainment will be limited to the use of the golf simulator. The golf simulator will be limited to a maximum floor area of 140 square meters or 1,500 square feet and must be located within the principal building. All other provisions of the M2 zone will apply to the subject property. Notice of the zoning bylaw amendment application was circulated by first-class prepaid mail to all assessed persons within 120 meters or 400 feet of lands affected by the zoning bylaw amendment application. Notice was provided by email to all township department directors, ministries, and agencies. And notice was also sent to the city of Peterborough and Hiawatha First Nation, who requested notice by email. A sign was posted on the Whittington Drive frontage of the subject property, and the notice of the public meeting was posted on the township website. The notice complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. At the time of the drafting, township staff had not received any comments from the public. Township staff have received comments from Canada Post, Enbridge Gas, Ministry of Transportation, and Autonomy Conservation, all of which did not have any objection to the application. Since drafting of the report, the city of Peterborough has provided comment and they have no objection to the application. Planning staff have reviewed the application and found it conforms to the township official plan, the county of Peterborough official plan, the growth plan of the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Matthew. We'll look to council now for questions or comments with regards to the application before us. Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair to Matt, that subject property looks like a bit of a combination of a lot of different units with a common road that I believe is privately owned and maintained by this group of buildings. Is this new facility going to impact parking at all for the other residents of that? And I don't know whether it's jointly owned or not.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilor Byrne, excuse me. The parking won't be affected. There is front parking and rear parking at the subject property. There's a common driveway through, but it won't be impacted by the use.
My mic wasn't on. Sorry about that. Seeing none, any other questions or comments with members of council with regards to the application? Otherwise, we can move to consideration of the report, and the motion being that council receive and consider any public comments received and that the bylaw be approved to rezone the subject lands from rural employment M2 zone to the rural employment exception 9 M2-9. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councilor Byrne. All in favor? That is approved. A question relating to it, not with regards to the report, Ms. Hurley, maybe I could ask you to speak to. Is this the sort of inclusive or exclusive? I know that's a bit of a determined, depending on, I think it's an inverse on what it means for more open-ended zoning to allow for certain things like this. I know we're waiting till the new official plan is done before we redo the zoning amendment, but is this the type of sort of adjustment or special consideration that we might be looking to or might be excused from by having a bit more open-ended employment processes within our zoning bylaw?
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. Probably the planner is the better person to respond to that question. However, as you alluded to, we will be doing a rezoning after official plan. So that is not currently permitted use within our current zoning, and that's why they applied for a rezoning. But it is something that you can certainly have discussion with, and certainly have discussion with our director of planning in the future when we do reopen our rezoning to consider those types of options. The process to do so.
Okay, so save that, stay tuned. I mean, we still haven't been able to start the OP because of the delay in the provincial legislation. So until we get that done, this is when the zoning bylaw we can review and sort of create more opportunities for hopefully streamlining the processes. Anyways, thank you for that. Sorry to interrupt, but we need a resolution now to close the public meeting, having moved that motion. Deputy Mayor Huntley and Councillor Byrne, all in favor? That is approved. Move on to 9.1 on the agenda, which is a presentation from Miss Lori Ritchie, our Healthcare Advancement Coordinator of Peterborough County. Lori, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here today to give an update on the new role that was created with via Peterborough County in October of 2023. I'm happy to say that Peterborough County recognized the need for a dedicated person to look into physician recruitment for the 8 lower tier townships. And so this position was created in October of 2023. And obviously I was a successful candidate. I do bring 28 years of healthcare experience to this role. 14 of those were in primary care, where I had the opportunity to work with all of the local family physicians, both within Peterborough City and County. And 5 of those years, I was actually physician recruiter for for Peterborough City and County. So I'm well versed for this position. I do report to the CAO of the county, but I do work very closely with the CAOs of the 8 lower tier townships. And collectively, we agree upon a work plan based upon the role description. And from that, it gives me kind of what it is that I'm to focus on within that particular year. And then I do speak with them on a regular basis and give updates as to where I am within that work plan. And I also would welcome the opportunity to report annually to council to give an update as to what's happening in the field of physician recruitment. Next slide. So I think everybody knows this. This is not a surprise. We are in a dire straits when it comes to people having access to primary care. Currently, it is estimated within Peterborough City and County, there are 32,000 persons without access to primary care. And according to the Ontario College of Family Physicians, that number is set to double in the next 4 years. And so this is certainly something that we need to pay attention to and start putting a plan in place. Next slide, please. So there are a number of reasons for this. As I was speaking with Councillor Byrne, this is not a surprise. This is something that we've seen coming for a very, very long time. And unfortunately, things were not put in place to that. But some of the main issues right now that we're facing is a lack of physicians actually going into the profession of primary care. And that's for a number of reasons, and it includes a very large administrative and growing burden upon them. It's estimated that they spend 19 hours a week right now to do administrative, non-medical tasks. A lack of team supports across the province. That's not the case here within Peterborough County, as all of our physicians are part of a family health team, which gives them access to team supports. But further to that, the compensation for family doctors has not kept pace with inflation. Their costs have gone up, but yet their billing codes have actually been reduced. So then the last number of years, they've faced a pay cut. Speaking with one physician, he feels he's had a 40% decrease in pay over the last 10 years. And we also have an aging physician population. So a large number of our physicians are in the baby boomer generation and are set to retire, and COVID pushed a number of them out the door, maybe prior to when they were actually thinking. And then secondly, and lastly, medical students are choosing not to go into family medicine due to those concerns listed above. So that makes it even more important that we have a focus with somebody focusing on physician recruitment to make sure that our residents within Peterborough County have access to primary care. Next slide. So I've been in the role for, I guess, 10 months now, or 9 months, and some of the challenges that I've identified are a lack of infrastructure. Many of our townships have grown considerably, Cavan Monaghan being one of them, and we have not created new medical infrastructure for people to actually set up and practice in. So while I can recruit for replacements, I don't have any place to put new physicians for those communities that have grown. Lack of accurate data. So that 32,000, I'm not really sure where it came from, how many people actually do not have a doctor, who they are and where they live. So I've created a solution that I'll speak to in a moment about that. Lack of candidates, as I mentioned, there's less and less people going in. I can post a job and I won't get anything. I will get nothing. And so it's not like any other profession whereby you post a position and you get multiple applicants. In this case, you actually may get none, and it may take a few years to fill a position. Spousal employment opportunities, more and more, we need 2 persons working within a household, and more females are going into medicine. And so, the spouse or the partner, the male is looking for employment and meaningful employment. And somebody's not going to come here unless we can ensure that their spouse also has employment. Lack of daycare. There's currently over 5,000 people on the wait list for daycare within Peterborough City and County. And, a lot of the people that are starting up practice, the younger ones are of childbearing age, and the ability to access reliable, licensed daycare is important. Our housing prices have gone up considerably. That used to be a great selling feature for us to recruit people to our area. And then lastly, family health organization restraints. As I mentioned, all of our physicians here are part of a team-based model, and as part of a family health organization, they actually have the ability to accept or deny new physicians into their group. And so this may be a potential barrier if they choose not to grow their family health organization, because without being part of a family health organization, you cannot be part of a family health team. So that also limits the ability. So some of the things that I've been working on as solutions for these identified challenges. The first one I'm quite excited about, because historically, physician recruiters have worked independently and in competition with each other. However, we are in such a state now that we actually should be banding together with the idea that any physician into Eastern Ontario is a win. So I am leading the formation of an Eastern Recruitment Physician Alliance. And these alliances are being formed across the province with the idea of having an overarching provincial organization. And the main focus on this is international recruitment. And this doesn't mean that these are not Canadian citizens. We have a large number of Canadian citizens that need to go out of country for med school. So finding these people early in their journey, making sure that they know of the opportunities and helping them to transition back here. They are still treated as an international medical graduate and have a number of hoops that they have to jump through. But we also can recruit from countries such as Great Britain, Ireland, United States, and Australia. Their medical education is considered the same as ours, and they simply need to write the licensing exam. So we're going to be focusing on those persons and then sharing a list of contacts amongst each other. Lobbying is a huge thing that needs to happen. There are a lot of issues with our healthcare system right now, and right now this is happening on an individual basis. But through the alliance, both the regional and the provincial, we feel we will have a stronger voice of a large number of recruiters speaking about the same issues. And then through the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and the Leadership Caucus, Mayor's Caucus, we should be able to have our voice heard. And as mentioned, as we are not employed by the provincial government, I feel we're in a good position in which to make some noise about some of the issues that we see within our current healthcare system. I'm looking to create an ambassador program because this is something that I cannot do alone. I need all of you. I need all of you on council, and I need all of the leaders and the people within your communities to be ambassadors for our communities, to help integrate people here, to promote our area when someone comes, hooking them up to make sure that they feel welcome and they want to stay. Their kids play hockey, making sure they're linked up with someone, et cetera. And then when I spoke about not having accurate data, I have launched a healthcare needs assessment. So far, I have about 3,200 people on that list. And it's people that don't have a physician or have a physician out of town and are looking for a physician closer to home. They're identified by their township. So this allows me to see the need within each community and then use that from a planning purpose. But also when we do bring a new physician to a community, I can use that list to help them build their roster. Physicians do not get paid until they have patients on their panel. So this is a way to help facilitate that. I will ask for your help in sharing the news about this healthcare needs assessment, and Yvette and I have been working closely, but there's only 232 people from your township on that list, and I know there's more. So we need to find them and we need to get their names on there because that's what's going to use data drives decisions, and without that data, I really will have a difficult job. And then lastly, I'm looking to do a town hall in each of the 8 townships. After I've had the opportunity to speak with each council, whereby I can speak to the public, tell them about the needs assessment, give them ideas of where they can seek care if they don't currently have a provider, and just generally listen to people's concerns and use that from a lobbying perspective. Next slide, please. I did have the opportunity to survey all of our physicians within Peterborough County, and I'm happy to say I got 100% return on that. I asked a number of questions in that and asking them when they were planning on retiring. Would they take on a student? You know, how much notice are they looking to give? And that data will help me to work with each individual physician to create a customized plan to help them transition out of practice. And I'm also looking at doing something, things to help them, like creating a locum calendar whereby they can put in when they're looking for some time off, and I can help to coordinate a locum. A locum is a temporary physician. If we can get temporary physicians seeing multiple sites, it's a great recruitment tool as well. So currently, that last line is incorrect. There's actually 4 positions in which I am recruiting for right now. I'm recruiting for one retirement in Lakefield. 2 new physicians are looking to be added to Kinmount, and then the Asphodel Norwood site is adding a 4th physician, and there is 1 NP vacancy in Keene. Next slide. So these are the numbers. I know they're very, very small, and this is a little bit out of date, but I do update this every week, and this is where I track the number of people that have completed that healthcare needs assessment. The second part of that needs assessment is asking them what other services they would like to see within their community. And again, that will be data that we can use to help plan. Next slide, please. So that's a very quick overview of what I've been doing for the last 9 months. I welcome the opportunity for any questions that anybody may have. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lori, for that presentation and all the hard and obviously urgent work that you're doing with regards to this. It's excellent. So obviously the message for all of council first and foremost is that we need to get the community to be filling out these surveys and providing that raw data so that we have that accurately and self-generated as well, so that we can, you know, make sure that when opportunities do arise that we're ready for those with a roster of patients, but also an understanding of the true state of the need in the community. So with that, questions, members of council for Lori. Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, when a doctor does retire, is it typical that you would get that information that he's thinking about do that? Like, how do you stay in the loop unless you're consistently going back to this all the time? And the other thing I was wondering, a lot of industries over the last few years are going directly to the universities and the schools to recruit. Is that part of this Eastern Ontario idea that you can actually maybe entice some people that, and I know I got granddaughters going to school at university, they don't know what they're doing next, right? So is that part of the process?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, I forgot your first question already, so I'll start with the second one. Second one is, yes, we do liaise with the universities, in particular the med schools. So there's 6 medical schools in Ontario, and they do have a recruitment fair every year that does get people who are in their first year of medical school, as well as residents. So we do speak to them there. I am looking to link into the high schools. I am going to be going to the career fair at Lakefield College School this spring to just introduce the concept of, are you thinking of becoming a physician? If so, this is who I am. I have 2 first-year medical students right now whom I'm working with in the county who are county residents who wish to come back and practice in the county. So I'll be working with our local physicians to give them observerships and opportunities for learnings. And I do remember your first question now. So through that survey that have individual details, I provided Yvette with a kind of a non-identifying overview, which she can share with fellow council members. But I will be meeting with each individual physician and talking about a plan. I am here to help them. They don't have to use me, but I don't see why they wouldn't. It is my job to kind of know how to get that word out there. So as I mentioned, I will be meeting with each one individually, going over their respective answers and formulating a plan and a way to keep in touch with them. And then if they are going to be retiring in the next few years, perhaps this is a great opportunity to bring in locums or students to expose them to the practice with the idea that there is opportunity to take over this practice in the future. There are only 18 positions within Peterborough County, so it's quite doable.
Thanks. And on that note, a similar question is, I've been aware that at least one physician who has since retired, but was because of the status and the need in the community that this individual previously served, there was an openness to potentially returning into some sort of reduced practice. But when endeavoring to do that and explore that on their own, they were said that it really wasn't a possibility. Is there opportunities, like I know we're focusing on it from a younger generation, but if there are those capable and willing to maybe recently retired, let's say it in that word, just to catch all, that still potentially have an appetite to do some work or contribute to the situation that, the entire province and most of the country is in. Is there a way or any considerations to how we might help individuals like that navigate and be able to serve? Because I think of the same thing when you mentioned a locum. To me, it's sort of the inverse way of providing the same sort of temporary and supported service that we really desperately need. I think the closest walk-in is in Scarborough or something or Whitby maybe, I think when I last looked. So, I mean, the entry into the care system is the real barrier for the community. So is there any evolutions or anything? I don't know if the foe is what's preventing that from moving forward or not, but to me, at some point, the need has to trump the jurisdiction of different entities in this regard, because it's just unacceptable, or we're at that point where it's progressively getting more unacceptable. Maybe you can speak to that.
Through you, Chair. Absolutely, there is a way for them to come back into the system, and I'm happy for you to connect that person with me. There are a number of different opportunities. Peterborough Family Health Team has two clinics for unattached patients. They're expanding, they're building more offices. They're looking to have 5 days a week service. So that's a way for them to contribute without necessarily having the roster or to have to go through the family health organization. There is the Jack Nathan Clinic in Walmart, which is offering walk-in service. Any physician with a license can practice there. And then there is the opportunity to connect through the leads, through the family health organizations, which I could help to facilitate, but there should be no reason for not.
Okay, we'll definitely get that in touch. Follow-up questions, Councillor Byrne, then Councillor Natchap, I believe.
Through the chair, not to put you on the spot, but with your vast experience with this needs assessment survey, what would be your guess at how many more are probably out there in the same situation? And what do you estimate the number of family care physicians Peterborough County should have?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would guess that there's probably 10,000 people that reside within the 8 townships that could use some primary care. It would be my dream, and a girl can dream, right? To have 2 hubs because physicians want to practice not in a single office anymore. The model is changing. So to be able to build a hub, say in your end of the township or the county, and another one in the east north end, and to have the ability to have 5 or 6 physicians working in each facility, perhaps have a daycare, perhaps have a pharmacy, have team-based care, have access to specialists to really service our rural residents within their areas. So I would think that, and then the other piece of it is the older retiring physicians have built up a large practice. It could be 18 to 2,000 patients, and a new physician. And my ideal would be to recruit full-time physicians, but that's even harder because most want to do part-time family medicine and part-time hospitalist or palliative, or, you know, they have a whole variety of things they could do. So it takes sometimes 2 to 3 physicians to fill one retiring physician, which creates even another infrastructure issue and the need to grow. So I hope that answers your question.
Councillor Nacho?
Thank you. Through you. Two questions. First question, in the 5 years that you were previously working in recruitment, can you tell me how many physicians you were able to recruit? And the second question was, can you speak a little bit more as to what specifically is being done to attract more of the international medical graduates?
Through you, Chair. I feel I was quite successful as a physician recruiter in the last role. I believe, and don't quote me on this, but at least 20, at least for a year. A lot of those were our Queen's Medical students. So Peterborough is a host site for Queen's Medical residency. And every year we're 6 graduating physicians, and I was able to retain about 50% of those. I personally can't take credit for all of those. Physicians recruit each other. Those physicians that were residents here, I simply help to facilitate the placement of it, but I feel that I was successful in that role. What I'm doing now and what I'm focusing on is, I don't believe it's large financial incentives that are the answer. I feel that those attract the wrong types of physicians and they create a money chasing environment, and people fulfill their return of service and leave. I'm looking at creating a supportive environment in which the physicians are made to feel welcome, connected to local resources using my contacts that I have, helping them to defer some of their administrative burden. The County of Peterborough approved an incentive whereby they get a 1-year subscription to Doctor Care, which is a billing software that helps to analyze their billings, and it's proven to earn them $25,000 to $30,000 more annually, and teaches them how to maximize their earnings. I've created a formalized mentorship program whereby I pay physicians to provide support to new physicians coming to the community, to remove that feeling of bothering somebody and to let them know that they're supported. Through the international recruitment, which has yet to happen. I'm just going to be attending my first fair in Dublin. There's 150 Canadian medical students there in Dublin. So I'll be working to find out who they are and find out who's from this area and building those relationships. Recruitment really is about relationships, and it takes time.
Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, and thanks again for the presentation, Laurie. You know, we've seen a few of them now through different councils and whatnot. But a couple questions for you. One is, I'm not sure I quite caught the answer to Councillor Burns' question about what would your ideal number of physicians in this area be? I think you went on a tangent of, you know, how many it takes to replace, but I don't think I actually heard that final answer. And then my second question was, we're talking about these, if the girl dreams, she gets these hubs that are built on different ends of the county. And where do we see these hubs coming from? Like, are they municipally sponsored? Are they county sponsored? Are they privately sponsored? Are they developer sponsored? Is it, is there like a private entity that will build them and you build the hub and the physicians will come? And once you have a hub, like you talk about the amount of support staff in order to make a doctor successful, like, is that part of the recruiting mechanisms that you take care of as well? Like, I'm just, help me here, because I know we got a few things and we got a few holes, but we have a bigger picture. And I just don't see how we get to that bigger picture without having that infrastructure in place, no matter where you recruit or where you recruit from them. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. I would say we probably need 12 physicians to cover Peterborough County residents' growth, but that's going to take, 12 more. Yeah, so going from 18 to, what's that, 30? So to cover the population growth that's anticipated within the different townships. As far as the infrastructure goes, I don't really have an answer for that. I would think that I know there are various models. So it could be like the Morton Center, for example, in Lakefield was made through community fundraising. We do have a lot of people that have some pretty deep pockets that live within Peterborough County. So there is that opportunity for private fundraising. That building itself is run by a foundation of local people who have an interest in healthcare. So that's one model. There are other models where it's a private developer and then we lease the space. The physician individually leases the space. The ideal would be to keep those costs as low as possible. So any form of subsidies or grants, federal grants that we could get for infrastructure. As of date, the Ministry of Health does not contribute to primary care infrastructure. That's certainly something that I'm going to be lobbying. They announced $181 billion or something for infrastructure that was going to community health centers and hospitals. What about primary care? So there's no quick answer. Maybe there is grants or opportunities. So the first thing is for us to agree on what infrastructure we do need and what makes the most sense. And so right now I'm just in the information gathering stage and the planting the seed stage to get people thinking. And, the more that we talk about it, the more perhaps somebody would come forward and say, hey, I'm interested in assisting with that or having a building named after me. The Morton Center is named after Dave Morton. He was a huge benefactor to that. So no easy answer.
Other questions, Councillor Byrne?
Through the chair, just a guess. I know it was restricted over the years, but how many students would be graduating, say, this next coming year from all the medical students in all of Ontario? Just a ballpark to know what we're up against.
Through you, Chair, unfortunately, I do not know that, but I know the number for Canada is 1,700 per year for all of Canada. So not that many.
Deputy Mayor Hunt.
Through you, Chair, just on that, but that 1,700 is all doctors, not just family physicians, right? So I guess to follow up on. Okay, no, sorry, but to follow up on that, do you know what percent of that 1,700 is actually family? No one.
Well, thanks for that. I don't see any other questions from members of council, but thanks for coming, Lori. Obviously, we're definitely open to your offer of coming up with annual updates. I mean, I think it's great. And if you need help with the town hall, obviously, Mr. Allison can help liaise and ensure that there's space available whenever those dates are that you want to come and do it. And obviously, we definitely wish you all the best. I mean, the need is certain, and we'll try to do the best we can in getting a more of a robust response, because I know in the conversations we've had over the years with the amount of citizens we see that the need is definitely far greater than 235. I think it's closer to the 2,000 to 3,000 in our community alone. And so we need all of those reflected in the data in order to, whether it's be successful at the funding supports that we definitely need, whether there's infrastructure or physician bonusing as well, we need to know the need. And that's often reflected. There are federal incentive programs, but unless you have the specific number of unrostered patients, you don't qualify. So we really do need this data. So we can't emphasize it enough at all of the events or whenever we're in public. Just make sure that we're sounding the horn about the survey and the importance of local generated data. That's raw data. Deputy Mayor, you have a question?
Through you, Chair, more of a comment. You kind of tweaked something as you said that, but as I was looking at your charts, I mean, you have the number of rostered patients in this community. So wouldn't you just be able to do kind of a, this minus this equals how many are unrostered? But I guess that doesn't really take into effect the people who are rostered outside of it. But I guess, forget it.
Through you, Chair, but that's where we get kind of the thought that there's perhaps 10,000. And so I would really encourage, and just as this is recorded and people can listen, people can call that cell phone number there and I can add them to the list if they don't do anything online, or they go to ptbocounty.ca, Your Health Matters. I have a separate page on that and there's a link to that on that page. Thank you.
And we'll make sure, Bridget's here, so we'll make sure that we can assist when we can, when we have sort of the gaps in the local announcements, that we fill in those sorts of voids on our social media and all the communications that we put out from the township, that we include that information as well. So we'll do all we can to help you get that information and data, and then hopefully that's all we can do, and hopefully things change and we work together with this massive issue that all of us are dealing with. So thank you for your work and best of luck. Can I get a motion to receive the presentation for information? Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Edgerton, all in favor? That is approved. We have another presentation today from DM Wills with regards to our road needs study update. I'm going to turn it to Drew for a brief introduction of our presenters. Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to council. I'd like to quickly introduce the members of DM Wills before the presentation. Today with us, we have Mike Lang, the president of DM Wills and a local resident of the township. We also have Gord Krieger. He's the manager of the transportation department with DM Wills. And then we have Turner Coolmare. He's an engineer in training with DM Wills, and he has been the lead for this project. Myself and Wayne have worked over the last several months with Turner to put together the road needs study. And Turner is here today to do the presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, Turner. Welcome. Just hit that button and then it's all yours.
Thank you for having me. My name is Turner Kohlmeyer, as Drew mentioned. The presentation today is going to cover some of the findings from the 2024 road needs study and the OSIM inspections. Just a quick agenda for today's presentation. I'm going to go over some of the methodologies that was used in the road needs study. I'm going to summarize the township's road infrastructure. I'm going to provide a summary of the findings and budget considerations. I'm going to speak to how the roadwork is prioritized in the reports. And then I'll just briefly touch on some of the OSIM inspection information, go over the structural culvert inventory, and then provide a summary of the recommendations in those OSIM reports. Next slide. So for the road needs study methodology, DM Wills uses kind of a hybrid model where we combine two different methodologies. The first being the MTO inventory manual method for municipal roads. This is a pretty common practice across Ontario. We use this approach for all roads, regardless of surface type in the township. It provides a more holistic view of the road, and it considers the road base, the surface condition, the surface width, the surface type, the drainage, kind of the geometry of the road, so the horizontal and vertical alignment, as well as the maintenance demand. Then we also reviewed the roads with the pavement condition index method. This is done exclusively for the surface treated and hardtop roads. And it's basically just gives you a single number from a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being kind of your brand new perfect road, and 0 would be an impassable road. And to support both of these methods, we completed visual inspections of your entire road network, and these were done in the spring of 2024. From that municipal, the inventory manual method for municipal roads, we identified some now 1 to 5 and 6 to 10 year structural needs. So the now needs are what we consider critical deficiencies, and the 1 to 5 year need doesn't mean that's when we expect the work to take place. That's when we expect the road to become a now need. And then we also assigned an overall condition rating for each of the road segments, just based on that criteria listed above. Next slide. So in the report, we have classified your roads by roadside environment. This includes rural, semi-urban, and urban. We also broke the roads down by class. And this is local, collector, and arterial. This is a requirement in the OREG 588 asset management regulations. It's just basically just a function of how large the traffic volumes are. And after those methodologies are complete, we prioritize these roads based on the condition rating and the volume. The traffic volumes used in these reports were brought forward from the 2020 study, just using a consistent growth rate. So here's the breakdown of the road network that the township has. You guys have 182 kilometers of surface treated roads, 30 kilometers of gravel roads, and 32 kilometers of hot mix roads. And a breakdown of the roadside environment. You guys have 228 kilometers of rural roads, and then 8 kilometers of semi-urban and urban roads. So kind of just a quick summary of the report findings. We found an overall system adequacy of 88%. So this means that 12% of your roads were found to be critically deficient in at least one category per the inventory manual method. We found the average structural adequacy to be 14.8 out of 20 and an average PCI of your hardtop roads to be 76. This broadly translates into your roads are in pretty good shape. We've also identified 79.1 kilometers of capital needs, and these have an estimated cost of $7.5 million over the next 10 years. So an important concept we like to touch on in the report and here in the presentation is preservation management. And it comes down to kind of the fundamental principle that it's less expensive and more cost effective to keep a road in good shape and repair that road while it's still in good shape. If you let a road get into very poor, serious condition, it becomes much more expensive to repair that road. So yeah, it's a really important concept to keep in mind, and we want to keep those good roads good. Next slide. So this is the structural adequacy distribution for the township. The roads rated 7 and below are kind of your now needs, and that would likely need reconstruction to repair. The roads greater than 12 are kind of those good roads that we want to target with resurfacing. As you can see, a lot of your roads are in that good range, so we want to really focus on the preservation management. So to support the budgeting for your public works department, we prepared a dedicated road resurfacing program. This was created using kind of standard degradation cycles. So we expect a hot mix asphalt road to be resurfaced on a 20-year cycle. The single lift of surface treatment to be resurfaced on a 7-year cycle, and the gravel roads to be re-gravelled on a 3-year cycle. If you crunch the numbers compared to how much of each surface type you have, it comes out to $1.4 million a year for that resurfacing budget. And this is the money that's used to extend the useful service life of those roads and just to keep those good roads good. We've also noted a preservation management budget of $733,000 a year. And this would cover stuff like microsurfacing and slurry seal. And we don't have a cost to the last one, but we also like to recommend a dedicated road maintenance program. It's important to note that a road is more than just the asphalt or the surface treated wearing surface. It also includes the granular material under that surface. And to extend kind of maximize the service life of out of your road, it's important that that road base is draining correctly. So the brushing and ditch cleanout can help significantly with that. So in the report, you'll see some tables, and those are ranked, or those lists are prioritized. So the roads at the top of the list are kind of our highest priority. And to do that, we use that formula on the screen. So the CR represents the condition rating, and the AADT is the traffic volumes. This isn't necessarily a set rule, but it's a tool to help your public works department create their budgets. It's not always going to be the worst condition road at the top of the list because we are weighting the traffic volumes. So the higher volume roads are going to tend to creep up the list. And the worst first approach can lead to an overall decline in system adequacy just based on limited budgets. So just to quickly summarize the road needs study. The methodologies we used were the inventory manual method and the PCI. We found an overall system adequacy of 88%. We're recommending an annual roads resurfacing budget target of $1.4 million a year. We've also identified 79.1 kilometers of roads with structural needs over the next 10 years. These have an estimated cost of $7.5 million. And we've also recommended that dedicated road maintenance program to extend the service life. Next slide. So part of this project, we also completed OSIM reports. This is a list of those 13 structural culverts that are included in those OSIM reports. I won't go through them all, but in the report, you'll find detailed inspection reports for each one. Next slide. And here's just some of the recommendations from those OSIM reports. So in 2025, there's some work recommended for the Sharp Line and Vest Road culverts. In 2026, they're recommending to replace the Alarmer Line culvert. And then in 2027, there's some minor works being recommended for Sharp Line, Zion Line, and Carmel Line crescent or culverts. And that ends the presentation. I'll invite any questions.
Thank you for that, Turner. Thank you all and staff, obviously, for all the hard work and providing us this information. I think it's it's good to hear that the majority of the news is good news when it comes to the PCI and the average rating in the community. And it's, and kudos to Drew and Wayne about all their hard work in managing all the infrastructure roads. Questions for Turner from staff, or sorry, from council. Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, for your structural adequacy distribution graph, I'm trying to figure out, especially with the gravel roads, typically we're grading the roads constantly, especially if it rains. This 12 or 16-year mark where there's a big seemingly need for, I don't know what, I'm really trying to wrap my head around the idea of the gravel roads having that much impact at that point in the future, because they recommend every 3 years that it should be basically added to. And I don't know, when I look at the other data you have, you talk about forget what you call it right now, it's in my notes, but I was wondering about the thickness of gravel that needs to be laid on for most road bases. Is that before or after compaction?
So thank you for your question, Councillor. To your first point, I'm sorry, what was your first question again? Oh, yeah, that time, sorry, that distribution isn't years until it needs to be worked on. It's the structural adequacy, it's a score out of 20. So so most of your gravel roads have a 16 out of 20 score. It's just based on the inventory manual method. It's hard for a gravel road to drop down below a good rating because they're all generally just the way the method's set up, the road has to be in pretty bad condition to become a 1 to 5 or 6 or a now need for gravel roads. And for your second question, we usually recommend 6 inches of gravel before compaction to be placed. It's not always achievable just based on budgets. And I think in the report, it's recommended for 75 millimeters of gravel.
Thanks, Turner. Other questions, members of council? Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, not so much a question, just kind of an observation while going through this. And thank you for the study. It's good. I'm glad to see that the roads program has been doing its job, and we're doing quite well with this. I would say overall. But it comes down to the numbers you have there, like the sorry, I forget which page it was on, but oops, lost the page. Anyway, but when I just was doing the quick math, I was thinking about 95,000 kilometers or $95,000 per kilometer of road to fix it is kind of what that math was kind of spilling out to me. So when I was looking a little closer, you put the 1.4 million in per year. I mean, that's about 15 kilometers of road. It's just kind of mind-boggling to think that, $1.5 million only fixes 15 kilometers of road. just it's, when people start talking about when we get into the budgeting times and things like that, like this is very, very expensive to maintain roads to this adequacy. And hats off to the roads department for, keeping us at this, higher standard level of roads, not higher level standard, sorry, but a great standard. Thank you.
Let alone culverts. I mean, oh boy, some of the culvert costs were holy. Anyways, Councilor Byrne had another question.
Through the chair to you, Turner, please. In the other documentation that we're not going to touch on today, but you had an example of a specific 1 kilometer road paved and what it would reflect over a lifetime type of thing. And I'm trying to, this isn't it's kind of convoluted. There's another one on page 117 that's a little less scripted. But what I was trying to get at was when they're talking about reconstruction at whatever segment, whether you do it on a continual basis or whatever, they were asking for it to be taken right down and all the base work replaced. And I didn't see that as typically necessary. And also in the report, it talks about some of the roads in the township, there's only 30 kilometers, well, less than, that are too narrow specifically, but nothing was mentioned where they are. Didn't seem to be critical, but it talked about resurfacing them with tar and chip, that in the report, it made it sound like it should go grass to grass. And we don't do that. And I didn't know how that all plays into maintaining a good road over a long time, because we started slurry sealing our tar and chip the year after they're installed in order to get somewhere north of 10 years out of a piece of road. And it looks like it's working. But it also recommends in here that that should go to the edges. And we always leave a chunk of gravel on either side, which we can't maintain or grade. And there's no mention in here of crowning. So crowning's kind of really important to maintaining the road. You talk a lot about it in the report, how we need to ditch and clear the road allowances, which is critical. And it's been known for years that that needs to be done. And we're way behind on that. But we also have a problem where the road edge doesn't actually get to the ditch. That there's now a berm, basically, that doesn't seem to allow the water, if the road was crowned properly and the surface went to the edge of the road, there's no place for the water to get away a lot of times. So I didn't know how you were looking at that for how we're doing things at this moment in time for when we reconstruct roads.
Yeah, no, so I definitely agree with your point that the road crown is important. It helps with the drainage that I spoke to earlier. It's the same with respect to if there are shoulder berms, those should be taken care of through maintenance to just encourage drainage. The report does recommend having, or I guess the standard design cross-section does recommend having gravel shoulders. So we don't speak to going grass to grass. We do expect a shoulder, and the shoulder itself actually does help improve the structural adequacy of the road. Yeah, so I hope that covers your question.
Maybe any staff want to provide any clarity with regards to that commentary? I mean, obviously, we're the ones doing the work versus assessing it, Wayne or Drew.
Just Mr. Mayor, on the issue of the berming of the road, which is a buildup, I think Turner has mentioned this. We tend to go along and try to scrape it off. We do try to maintain a gravel shoulder as minimal as it is, and of course that is related to drainage. And I think the key part, I mean, there's the evaluation is really telling us that the roads are in generally pretty good shape. So I think, I think the program, our surface treatment, our hard top and our slurry seal, I believe is working. And I think that's the key to the whole report.
Okay, thanks for that. Seeing Councilor Byrne.
On through the chair on that note, the difference between the micro surfacing and the slurry seal, it kind of gets tossed around like they're both the same, but they're not. I'm guessing the cost is kind of prohibitive if you go to the polymers that are in the micro surfacing and a different mill build as well that gives you maybe a better finish. What are the determining factors that would say this is a smarter way to go rather than just worrying about the nickels and dimes and the initial cost?
Yeah, so they are different, as you noted. I don't know off the top of my head where kind of what triggers one over the other, but I can go back and check our reporting and get back to you on that.
Perfect. Thanks, Turner. All right. We are receiving this report for information. So thank you for everyone at DM Wills, and nice to see everybody. And look for a motion from council to receive the presentation for information. Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Natchow. All in favor? That is approved. Thanks very much, Turner. Thanks for the hard work, everyone. We'll see you again soon. The next is our one and only delegation is Mr. Alex Schmidt, the Gani Enduro race. We're coming back again. Mr. Schmidt, nice to see you in person this time. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council, for seeing me. I'm here again this year to bring back a request for the annual Gani Enduro mountain bike race through the Millbrook Valley Trails. So again, an overview. October 1st is the incorrect date. It's October 6th. My apologies. But we are looking to run our Enduro mountain bike race once again. It is a 6 times stage race over the course of a 46-kilometer race. The start again will be at the fairgrounds. That has been a phenomenal venue for us for both parking and for setting up a bunch of vendors and infrastructure there for a barbecue for lunch as well. Once again, this year we'll run 2 courses, a morning and an afternoon course with the barbecue in the middle. Once again, we'll be insured through the Canadian Adventure Racing Association. Additionally, this year we are race 9 of the larger Ontario Enduro Series that we host as well. So we have brought in an additional 8 races into our banner of race series. So that is growing the sport within the province. It is kicked off very well in the West Coast and Quebec as well. European nations have really picked up the enduro sport. So we are looking to keep that growing within the province. So it's exciting to see a 9 race series this year. In terms of participation, last year we had 143 racers. This year our goal is 150 to 160. To previous years, we don't expect a big growth this year with the lack of access and restriction to the Ganaraska Forest Trails. We've heard from some of our participants that repetitive nature of the same course every year will start to eat at our participants. So we're hoping that with work of Ganaraska Forest, we can soon get back into there and get a bigger race and more trail access for the race itself. So unfortunately, this year we don't see a big growth, but we can get up to that 150 and just cross over that. That'll be a great success for us. So the objective today is to seek permission from council to use the Millbrook Valley Trails, as well as Zion Line, Route 310 and Glamorgan Road. So as an overview, here is the morning course. So starting up in the top right is the fairgrounds, rolling through the Millbrook Valley Trails, up Elgar Drive, across on Zion, down 310, and back along the Gani Transit, back towards MBT, and back across to the fairgrounds. Next slide. After the barbecue at lunchtime, riders will depart back from the fairgrounds into Millbrook Valley Trails, across and up the Gani Transit, and then up north on Fire Route 310, left on Zion, left on Glamorgan, and then back towards the upper portion of the Gani Transit, then returning back to Millbrook Valley Trails and back to the fairgrounds. Next slide. So as mentioned, we got 2 loops, the morning and the afternoon loop. The race will start at 10 a.m. And we'll send riders off in groups of 10 just to try to space them out within the forest. We found that, the first stage of the race has always been a bottleneck. So we're redesigning the course a little bit with some of the trails that Millbrook Mountain Biking has built to try and space that out to not have a big bottleneck at the first timed section of the race. As mentioned, each stage is an individually raced section. So they are racing individually. There's no mass start, so to speak, where they're always racing. As well on that last point, their road usage, when participants are using the roads, they are not racing at that point in time. They are, we call them transitions. So they are transitioning from time segment to time segment. So they are untimed. And so they are to follow the rules of the road, look out for traffic, and be respectful to road users. While traveling the roads, we'll have volunteers stationed at the road crossings, as well as signage along the road to let road users know there is a race in progress. There'll be volunteers, marshals throughout the course to help keep riders moving in the right direction, as well as arrows and tape to ensure no one gets lost, as well as our first aid staff on site and course throughout the day. Next slide. So again, benefits to the community. It certainly helps with local businesses, with food and lodging. We're looking at seeing if we can get any other local sponsorships from some of the local vendors to come out to the event and set up a shop of some sort. Trail exposure to the greater mountain bike community. This year, we've included a donation option to the riders to donate to Millbrook Mountain Bike to continue with their amazing trail work. And then the more riders we get coming, the more membership we can get to Millbrook Mountain Bike to then get them more resources and ability to continue doing what they're doing, as well as that boosts the community health, both people who currently live here, and encourages others to come to Millbrook with knowing they've got the Millbrook Valley Trails there for use. So that's a benefit to community now and in the future. Next slide. And that's it. So thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Like I said, nice to see you in person this time. It seems like it's gone fairly well. I think last year was better than the previous years, so we're getting a little bit better each and every time out. So it's nice to see it back again. Questions for Alex? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, just out of curiosity, over the last few years, do you get much feedback, either positive or negative, from the population in the area to this regard?
Thank you for the question, through the chair. We had one feedback from a resident down Fire Route 310. The first year we missed getting them notice of the race happening, so they reached out to us, wanting to be notified of that. So the following years we gave some more notice, and then we have their emails now, so we'll let them know on specific dates of here's when the event's happening. That's the only community feedback other than direct mountain bike community feedback, which everyone is well receiving. But yes, great question.
Yeah, no, Alex, I think I appreciate your working with staff. I think initially the first few years, it was a bit of a time sensitive issue, but being ahead of the schedule for the timing really helps us and ensuring everything's organized. So I appreciate you taking that on, and every year you're a little earlier. So we're more than organized to understand exactly what's going on, and wish you all the best. So on October 6th is the corrected date, correct? Okay, I've made that. So council, what we're considering today is that council support the delegation from Alex Schmidt and grant permission for the Enduro mountain bike 2024 race to utilize the North Valley Trail System Network and Zion Line and Fire Route 310 and Glamorgan Road. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? That is approved. Thanks, Alex. Hoping for a dry day on October 6th. Yeah, take care. All right, now that we're getting into the meat of the meeting, there's a number of sets of minutes here that we're going to have to go through one by one. So you'll have to bear with me pardon me. Yeah, so the minutes for the first under consideration at 11.1, the minutes of the regular meeting held June 24th, 2024, be approved as presented. Any questions about those minutes? If not, moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? Those are approved as presented. Minutes from committees and boards. We have the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting minutes of March 15th and May 17th, 2024 meeting be received as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? Those are approved. The next is the Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes of March 21st be received as presented. Moved by Councillor Edgerton and Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? Those are also approved. The North Valley Trails Advisory Committee meeting minutes, April 22nd and May 27th meeting. We were looking to receive those minutes as presented. Moved by Councillor Natchoff, seconded by Deputy Mayor Huntley. All in favor? Those are approved. And we have the Cavan Monaghan Public Library Board meeting minutes from the meeting of May 21st, and we're receiving those for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? Those are approved. The next are the Millbrook Downtown BIA Board of Management meeting minutes of April 11th and May 9th, and we're receiving those for information. Moved by Councillor Natchoff and Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? That is approved. All right, those are all the minutes behind us now, and we'll move into the report section of the meeting. First up, Mr. Hancock and Mr. Hutchison for the Public Works 2024-14 Road Needs Study Update. Drew, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. Before you, we have Public Works Report 2024-14 with recommendations regarding the Road Needs Study Update. The recommendations before you are as follows. Recommendation 1, that council receive the Public Works Report 2024-14, the Road Needs Study. And recommendation 2, that council adopt Cavan Monaghan 2024 Road Needs Study. As mentioned in the presentation, staff use this study when doing budget planning and considerations. It does help us plan out our next steps. Additionally, we do upload this study to the township website, and it gives the public access to the document for any questions or concerns about the status of their road. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Questions, members of council? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair to Drew, when we say that we adopt the study, that still means that those events, when they come to budget wise, will be brought back forward and assessed? Or does this mean that everything's recommended inside that study carries on just because?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Byrne. We still do go through the typical budget phases for each of these projects when they are proposed. I believe just by adopting the document, because we have a current study from 2020, which was our last road needs study, and it is currently the one we still use. We're adopting the one from this year, the 2024 update, and we'll be using that moving forward for any of our planning for budget or considerations of road reconstruction.
Yeah, and my clarification, just for simplicity's sake, from adoption, it means we're internalizing the document and making it a municipal document that we'll share to the township website, make accessible as well. So that's it. But follow-up question, Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to Drew, when I was going through that study, I'm trying to figure out how you itemized them. So I'm under the assumption, the way this asset management planning is going, that every piece of road is going to be an asset that we are going to budget for somewhere in the future. When I started looking at the way that study's done, some of the roads are listed in alphabetical order, which makes sense, but their reference number, and there's a couple of different terms that you use, are all over the map as far as I can understand my level. And it looks like the roads were broken down into chunks that either their surface that's there now or their condition that they're now makes that little piece a separate number. How does that reflect back into if somewhere there's supposed to be an asset directory that everything that we own is going to be itemized? Do those numbers correlate at all, or what am I to take from that study on those numbers?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Byrne. Yeah, there is definitely a lot of sections, so it is hard to categorize them a bit. Within the road needs study, the majority of sections, it's broken between, say, intersection to intersection, which gives us a larger chunk of road. So when we are going through planning our either resurfacing or reconstruction of roads, we might not be doing the whole stretch. So in the asset management, it is broken down, so it does average the section as a whole, whereas half the section could have been done in 2023 and the second half could have been done previous years or will be done in the next couple of years. But we do average the section. So with the asset management, we are going through to try and clean it up to make it a little more organized for both internal use and presenting it to council. But for the road needs study, it does average the road between the sections as shown.
Sorry, follow-up question? Oh,
On that same note, inside with the work on the culverts, which will be dealt with some other time, I guess, it's the same type of thing. Like there's only 13 on the list. There's a huge number of culverts throughout the township. And I was hoping to ask some questions. We can do that at another date, but I just wondered how you're going to itemize them as well, because they don't even seem to represent the same as the road analysis where they fit in. And I just wonder, is there a total number of culverts in the township recorded anywhere? I know a couple of the ones that they're thinking of working on, the one on the Sharp Line, they don't seem to know when it was built. They don't seem to have an estimate of when it was built, but some of the other stuff is all itemized nicely. So I wondered how that plays out on this overall plan.
Yeah, so within the OSIM report, those are for the structural culverts. So they are larger culverts that typically have a stream or a larger flow of water running through them. So they are different than a typical crossroad culvert because we would have hundreds of those within the township, but it is categorized for the larger structures, and those are the ones that we do review because there's different standards that are followed for those sort of structures.
Thanks, Drew. Other questions? Councillor Natraf?
Thank you, through you. There a possibility that we could develop some form of interactive mapping system that either council could have access to or the public that could have access to, that could kind of like show, you know, where the rated roads are so that, you know, people, maybe the public can just go on, or maybe through our website where, you know, case an example, I contacted you guys over the last week about constituents that had asked about specific sections of their road, so that it would make it easier. It doesn't take as much time for staff to have to reply back all the time, that someone could just go onto a map and just go, okay, I live on this stretch of road on, let's say, Zion Line, and it's rated as a, you know, like immediate use, or a 1 to 5 or 6 to 10. And then they have a kind of better understanding of, okay, I can expect that my road will be done in this period of time or not. And then it just gives staff, you know, I can ask those questions and have easier access instead of having to kind of chase you guys down to get those answers.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Natchoff. That is a great comment. As of right now, we do every year after budget, we do put an overall township map with the highlighted sections of road that are going to be either resurfaced, or if it's a full reconstruction. We do have those on the website, as well as the road need study is on the website. So with this study, we for Appendix B, we did go through an alphabetical order to have all of the ratings of the road. We thought that was an easier tool instead of having to read through the whole document. It's a 3 or 4 page document that has all the roads just with the specific rating. So it's a little bit easier to go through and find the sections of the road that you're actually looking for. Moving forward, we are internally, it's at the beginning stages, but with the asset management, there is a little bit of a larger picture. There is stuff that we would like to dive into a bit more, but it will take time to develop. And it could be something in the next couple of years that we could produce and possibly have access for the public, and they could go into that and dive in a bit more. Thank you.
Follow-up questions, Councillor Byrne?
Through the chair to Drew. One of the high priority ones is going to be Johnson Road out by the marina near the river. At what point north of that section, it just says to the end, where does Peterborough city limits? I'm guessing it's where the really crappy part of the road is, because everybody always argues about the boundary lines, but there's a chunk there that will cross over that line. I'm just trying to figure out it's not well marked. I didn't know if you knew where that was precisely.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Byrne. Off the top of my head, I don't think I can describe the exact location. We could pull it up on the GIS to show you. I don't know if Mr. Hancock knows. But I think it'd be easier to look at on the GIS, and I could pass that along to you.
To the chair, on that similar note, so some of the culvert work on the south end of Journal Road, I thought we did a bunch of work down there. It might be a different culvert that we repaired a few years ago. But at what point south of there does the fire road, like the boundary for those two things? And what is the township's responsibility for maintaining that piece of road between that fire road until you get farther south and it comes back out onto Solarcom or Solar Can or something?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Byrne, Journal Road, first of all, is a boundary road, so that is, and it's under our agreement that we'll maintain it. We generally maintain true to the railroad tracks on that roadway. The section of roadway south of that is an unopened road allowance. There is a lot of people using it, but we do not maintain it, and it is signed. So that's the limit of our work. So we do go just to the rail line. We did do some culvert works on Genoa Road. I think in the report, they're suggesting some head wall repairs and a couple things of that, but nothing of a major nature at this point. So at this point, we did some major works a number of years ago there.
Thanks for that, Wayne. Deputy Mayor Huntley?
And through you, Chair, to Drew and Wayne. I like the idea of publishing the list of the roads and the conditions associated with them. I mean, it says the surface treatment or the surface treatment that could be applied, the condition, you know, the structural rating, the overall rating, whatever. But I think the only thing that's missing from that, though, is kind of like a projected timeline. Like if I'm out there and my road's not very good, I'm calling because I want it fixed. Right. And we always talk about, you know, go read the road need study, and, you know, that's what dictates when these things will be. But if I look at this won't tell me anything. Right. Whereas, like, if you could almost chunk it up, because you really have like the 4 different kind of ways you can organize that list, you know, depending on the, you know, the cost, the surface route, and build a criteria, and then like drop it in that, you know, here's a 4 to 5 years, a 6 to 8 years, a 10-year, like, and put those roads in those chunks. Like, it's not necessarily, you know, the gospel, but it just gives some sort of indication, right? Because if I direct anybody to this list, they'll look at it and they'll go, okay, I scored 78. Does that mean I'm getting my road fixed this year or in 10 years? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know whether we can just simplify that little bit more to make it that much more user friendly for the people that we send to that report. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely something we can, because we've talked about the capital program and how we better outlay it. And there is in the budget process, we do have the 10-year capital forecast there as well. So that's definitely some place where we might be able to capture a bit more of that granular data when we're sharing it on an annual basis as a part of the budget process, which makes a lot of sense to me. But always room for improvement for sure. But I know there's also been conversation at the county. Obviously, they have a GIS department, and they have through a significant amount of investment and work, it's all of the county roadworks throughout the greater area of the county of Peterborough and the townships they're in are available online to be viewed. You can click and sort by township. You can sort by class of bridge or culvert or things of that nature. It is a lot of work, and there has been conversations at the county about making it possible for townships to upload their respective public works capital plans and projects into it. It's just a significant, you know, it will require multiple full-time people to convert, analyze, and allow that data be uploaded into the system. It is a labor intensive and then not a common labor type of skill set that's required to do that. So it is a cost prohibitive thing, but all in time. So anyways, thanks for those answers. Thanks for the questions, council. Right now we're looking for a mover to receive the Public Works Report 2024-14 for the road needs study update, and the council adopt the Cap Monaghan 2024 road needs study. Moved by Councillor Natchoff, seconded by Deputy Mayor Huntley. All in favor? That is approved. Thank you, Drew and Wayne. The next report is report PEB 2024-38 revised communications policy. Bridget is taking the reins for this one. Bridget, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. The report before council is PEB 2024-38. The revised communications policy with the recommendation that council adopt the communication policy. Just a little bit of an overview. This this revised policy brings together our existing communications policy with some standalone policies that we had previously, specifically our social media policy, ClearPrint guidelines, logo standard guidelines, and it brings it together under one document. Is a little bit more fulsome policy document, and it includes all touch points for outreach to the community that include website, emergency communication, media, print media, electronic literature, third-party communications, and social media. So the policy is before you for consideration and adoption.
Thanks, Bridget. Questions, members of council, with regards to the updated and revised policy that sort of brings them all together under one, which makes a lot of sense. Communication in general. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to Bridget, I see the way the world's spinning, and I get the idea of all this stuff. It all sounds very nice, and it all sounds correct and virtuous in the whole 9 yards. But some of this in regard to the social media and our webpage stuff, I worry that there's a lot of rules. There seems to be a huge amount of rules controlled by a very small group of people. And I was hoping that this social media was going to be able to bring out more than one side of an argument or a discussion. And what I'm hearing when I stop and talk to people, actually listen to what they're saying and try to understand what they're saying, there seems to be a disconnect from this idea that the social media, the hoopla, the Facebook and all that stuff is really working. Like when I actually talk to people and use language, clear language to discuss things, they seem to be worried that they can't even voice their opinion because not only the number of rules, but also the worry that, they're not going to be well received, or their ideas are going to be taken down or dismissed or whatever. So I don't know how we compensate or correct that, but I just see that as a big worry.
So just in that regard, Councilor Byrne, like what our social media pertains to is the township of Cabot-Monnigan's accounts. Like we don't have any influence or regulation over the internet or all the different various entities, platforms, et cetera. We have no controls or even influence on what those respective groups or policies are. So it has not, like this policy is literally just for the accounts that we have ownership of and the format and what information goes on those entities. So I don't think there's any culling of any communication or discussion, but really from our standpoint, our social media is really just putting out information about events or timelines or, recent activities or even emergency protocols, as we found out last term in council, which was quite a surprise. But we don't dictate beyond our own. Yeah. So that's literally it. It's really regulating our contribution and even the things of the fonts that are required for the various publications that we put out. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. Bridget, anything to add?
Yes and no. That is a perfect summary. Yeah, we try and just use our social media site to provide information to our residents. We don't comment or get into comments. We don't comment on third-party sites. We don't enter into those conversations. However, we do monitor them. So we do see what's being said, and we try and use that as an opportunity to educate the community. So if there's misinformation that is being put out there, we try and be aware of it and find a way that we can utilize our own social media channels to put the correct information out there. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Bridget. Other questions with regards to the policy? If not, we are looking for a motion for council to adopt the communications policy as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Nacho. All in favor? That is approved. The next report is Bridget and Karen again, PEB 2024-40 Station Park Signage Project. I'm not, Bridget, is it Karen's taking the reins? Okay, Karen, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Graham, members of council, members of the public. Report PEB 2024-40 is before you today with the following recommendations. Firstly, that council support standalone signs at the Station Park Signage Project. Secondly, that council authorize the Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee to proceed with the design concept for the Station Park Signage Project as presented. And thirdly, that the final sign design concept be presented to council for endorsement prior to implementation by the committee. The long and short of this report is previously we were looking at a mural project. The mural would be attached to the Station Park picnic shelter. The committee is after much thought and consideration, has determined that a standalone sign or signs is more appropriate at this location. The information, the concept is basically the same. There will be some additional wording, but there will still be artwork on the signs. It will be of a scale appropriate to pedestrians. And we will work with other township departments to determine the most appropriate location for the signs.
Thank you for that, Karen. This project's gone on for quite a while, and it seems to significantly evolved from what it once was to what it is now. I'm glad to see that the final sign design concept coming back to council, but I am a bit concerned. I mean, I think it was 3 to 4 years ago, council approved a significant amount of money. I think it was $7,000 or $5,000 for a mural, and now we're completely different in the scope of the project. So to me, is this something that, you know, I guess we're hoping to fund through the previously approved amount, but like, it's not remotely close to what it was. We were repairing a mural on the side of a building that was a historic mural, and that was the whole intent, and everyone in council of the day was in support of that. And now we're not repairing that mural at all. We're building some sort of new signage in a completely different area. So I have some concerns about, you know, the evolution of the project versus what the approval of the funding for it is. Is there any assurances or comfortability that you could potentially provide to me with any scope? Because I'm struggling.
To you, Mayor Graham and members of council. So this has been going on for quite some time, and you are right that originally we were looking at, there was some uncertainty about the condition of the mural on the downtown building. So we were looking at another mural and or replacing that mural somewhere else. In that time, we have now identified funds in the operating budget to do ongoing maintenance for the mural downtown. So there is work that is being done to maintain the mural on the building downtown. The mural we're talking about today is now evolved into signage, but it's going to be related to that. There will be a QR code that will have additional information available to people to point them downtown. But it is the story of the history of Millbrook. And the story is basically the same. The artwork is going to be similar. It's just the infrastructure on which the information is going to be portrayed. So, and we do believe, with the committee's help, that the existing budget of $7,000 will accommodate the project. So we will not be looking at any additional funds at this time.
So I guess my follow-up question to that, Ms. Ellis, is, so I don't want to maybe overstep the boundaries of the jurisdiction. I mean, Mr. Hack is, you know, taking the lead on this and working forward, but when they come to council for approval, I mean, like, I know what the mural looks like, you know, we're down there and we see it. I have no idea what the signage project is going to look like, and there's never been any discussions or approaching council about what their thoughts are or feelings are. So is it, when they come forward with this design, what is the jurisdictional input or authority that we have to say, you know, that's not what our $7,000 is going towards, or you're a committee of council, it's your decision, it's your jurisdiction, and we're just rubber stamping the entire thing? Because that's where I'm sort of struggling.
To you, Mayor Graham and members of council. So a report was done last August of 2023. We came forward with a report that recommended the story of the mural. So it will be a journey. So the intention is to present the story of a newcomer coming to Millbrook. They arrive by train. They come, you know, they stay in a hotel, they find a job, they find a place to live, they get engaged in the community. So there will be different heritage aspects of that story overlaid on the backdrop of a historical Millbrook map. So that journey, that story is remaining the same. The only difference is that instead of it being presented in a mural concept on a flat surface on the end of the picnic shelter, it's now going to be on a pylon sign or signs that are standalone that people can walk. It could be two-sided, it could be three-sided. So we had previous council approval of the concept last year. We're just changing the delivery or how it's going to be presented in the field. So we are looking for council's endorsement that instead of a flat mural, we're going to the pylon sign or signs, and we will continue operating within the approved budget.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ellis. Let other people speak to this. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair. And obviously, I'm quite familiar with the mural project as I sat through Mr. Hack for the first rotation of it. But I'm glad to see that, you know, we can preserve the mural where it is, which was, you know, one of the, you know, took us a long time to kind of debating whether it could stay or it had to go. I'm glad it can stay. That was, you know, priority. I am liking the evolution of where we're going with it, with now that we freed up with the, you know, the necessity of protection. Now we can move on to more of the education, more of the, you know, the explanation of that mural, as well as other things that have happened in Millbrook. So I think it's a great plan to move forward, and I think Mr. Hack has done a great job of, you know, coming up with a new concept for, you know, what could have been a good thing at Station Park, and now is going to be an even better thing at Station Park. My only recommendation, I guess, would be, or consideration would be, I mean, we do have a similar type structure at the mill. And maybe we use that as kind of a model for, you know, what you use up at the Station Park if this thing goes forward. And kind of a little bit of consistency. It's not ours, it was the mill put it up for the information board around that. Might be some sort of thing to consider. Anyway, I like the journey and I like the evolution of this project.
Yeah, it's a good point to think of, some consistency when we're trying to, as we move forward with various, historical significant projects that we've talked about, a number of them over the last year. That there is some consistency to the signage and indications of that maybe staff can take that on board in considerations as well. Ms. Hurley.
I just wanted to mention, I think, if I'm thinking of the historical sign that you have there, it's an editorial type of sign. I think what they're proposing here is to be a little bit brighter, more colorful, that kind of scenario. So as long as no matter what they decide, whether they can take a look at it and see how they can incorporate some of a similar look of some sort, but I think they were looking for more of a modern type of signage that has I'm not sure if it had lighting on it or not, but no. So we can take a look at that and then bring it back. I just wanted to make a point. It will come back. The design will come back to council. Mr. Hack will review it and consider what those options are, but just keep in mind that the intention is to come back to council for the final approval.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see when it does come back. So there are 3 recommendations in the report. 1, that council support the standalone signs for the station signage project. 2, the council authorize the municipal revitalization and heritage advisory committee to proceed with the design concept for station park signage project as presented, and that the final sign design concept be presented to council for endorsement prior to implementation by the committee. Mover for those 3 recommendations, Councillor Edgerton and Deputy Mayor Huntley, all in favor? That is approved. Thank you, council. Good discussion. The next is report 13.4 PEB 2024-42, development of a corporate communication data analysis and monitoring program contract award. Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the rest of council, the recommendation for the report before you is that council award the development of a corporate community data analysis and monitoring program for $22,000 plus HST of $2,860 for a total bid of $24,860 to Aladaco Consulting Incorporated. Thank you.
Questions, members of council? Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to Mr. Phillips, that raw data that they're going to sift through that you got from Ontario Hydro, which we're going to use hopefully to figure out some things in the future. Will that raw data ever be available to just the average person? Is that going to be something that's accessible to the public?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Byrne. I'm not sure that's solely with Hydro is who gets to that, any of that data, who's that's available to, probably same with Enbridge as well. They've allowed us at this time to view it, but it's pretty restrictive. So I don't know, that's up to them if they'll ever release that out to the public. It won't come out. It'll come out more as a general information through this, but individual data it won't. And it's pretty aggregate to begin with, so it's not very specific to any properties. It's by postal code and by sector.
Yes, through the chair. I realize that portion of it, but I just wondered the summary that we're going to get from this consultant, how we actually know what got weeded out and what didn't, and how that reflects back. If you don't actually get to see the data, I don't know how you assure a good report. That's all.
Okay, other questions, Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, just to make a comment on that. I mean, this is, reams and reams and reams and reams of data that gets summarized to present and make public. So it's not like the data is being kept from the public. We're actually helping the public interpret and understand it. And the whole purpose of this role is actually to help the Sustainability Committee understand that data to actually make decisions and set targets and be able to measure, where we're going and what we've done. So making all that data public is also making it digestible to the public is the key of this role.
Yeah, definitely making it accessible. It doesn't make it accessible just because it's available, because I can only imagine the data, the amount that Hydro has at their disposal. Seeing no other questions, the recommendation in the report is that council award the development of a corporate community data analysis and monitoring program for $22,000 plus HST of $2,860 for a total bid of $24,860 to Alatico Consulting. I hope I said that right. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Natchop. All in favor? That is approved. On to the next report, Mr. Allison, the Parks and Facilities 2024-03 Municipal Alcohol Policy Update. Over to you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I have before you Parks and Facilities Report 2024-03 Revised Municipal Alcohol Policy. The recommendation is that Council adopt the revised municipal alcohol policy effective August 2024. The revised municipal alcohol policy is a housekeeping update to align with current regulatory requirements. There has been a change made with regards to the CMCC to allow consumption of alcohol in all public areas. As you may recall, a one-time policy exemption was brought to council last year for the Pete's game. This change allows SOP events to license all public areas in the facility moving forward. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Chris. So in addition to obviously having implications for the CMCC, and are the majority of the other adjustments due to changes with the AGCO legislation? And is there anything that sticks out that's especially noteworthy that we should be aware of?
To you, Mayor, it is the AGCO mostly. There's nothing outstanding. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Questions, members of council, with regards to policy? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, on page 355, section 2.6 for events. The gist of it is that whoever I think signs for that event has to be on site for the entire event. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor, to Councilor Byrne, that is correct. Whoever is running the event must be on site for the event.
Other questions? Councillor Natchop.
Thank you, Chair, through you. In regards to the certificate of insurance for patio, is there any increase or has it always been at a $5 million insurance rider for the business owners?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Natchop, all events are $5 million.
Sorry, follow up. Thank you through your chart. No, the question wasn't, is it $5 million? Has this changed from policy 2017? Has it always been $5 million is the requirement for insurance, or was it previously $2 million?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Natchop, it has always been $5 million liability. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, the motion with regards to the recommendation in the report rather is that council adopt the revised municipal alcohol policy effective August 2024. Do we need a specific date? The 12th would be today, or do you just want August 2024? Very good. As written then, very good. Moved by Councillor Natchop, seconded by Deputy Mayor Huntley. All in favor? That is approved. CAO report and capital status, Ms. Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To council, the report and capital status project is before you. These are the capital projects that we're currently working on for the end of the year. As you know, these are amended and updated as we bring them forward to let you know where we are on the status. But if you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Questions with regards to the updates on the report, Councillor Natchop.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Can you just speak a little bit more to the splash pad? I see where it says July 15th. Got a lot of people in the village asking.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we're very excited about the splash pad. That was the date that we started the project. We're currently right now, I believe they did the cement last week, and on Thursday they did the cement cuts, and I think we're just waiting for final approval on that. Is that correct? Next week? This week. So hold on, because it could be open by the end of this week. So that would be great. We will do a, certainly a proper, press release on the splash pad, and we'll probably do a little bit of a ribbon cutting. Miss Bridget, yes. We're just trying to confirm dates actually, and we would like to include ABC because ABC actually did the build for us and we would like to include them. So we will select a date and definitely do a grand opening for that.
Just want to say good work. That's on time and so people are very excited. So congratulations on this project.
Very exciting, definitely. Other questions with regards to the CAO report? If not, we'll look for a mover and a seconder to receive that report for information. Moved by Councillor Natchoff, seconded by Deputy Mayor Huntley. All in favor? That is approved. Council and committee verbal reports. Anyone have any committee updates with regards to their service? I know we've been off a bit for July, but Deputy Mayor Huntley, start us off.
Sure, through you, Chair. We did have ladies' night. Was that last week or the week before? I don't know. I think it was the week before, and yeah, it was a great success trying to get back on track. We obviously had some troubles coming out of COVID, and a great crew of volunteers that kind of got slung together at the last minute to be able to put it together. We ended up with almost 30 vendors, I believe, on the street, and well attended, and a great start, and hopefully we can continue that going forward. Maybe with a little bit more advanced planning might help a little bit, but we'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Other council committee updates? I know most committees are off for the summer, so anyways, very good. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive that verbal report? Councillor Byrne, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. General business. There is no general business. Correspondence for information. There is none. We have a few items of correspondence for action, and I'll start. So first, in your package, you'll see we have the annual letter from the Millbrook Zucchini Festival asking for our support to add them to the event schedule and our municipal insurance for 2024. So obviously, it's a great longstanding event in the community, so we'd like to continue that. So I entertain a motion for that exact thing, to support the request to add them to the Millbrook Zucchini Festival to the event schedule and insurance for 2024. Moved by Councillor Natchoff, seconded by Deputy Mayor Huntley. Any questions with the motion? If not, all in favor? That is approved. The next item is a letter that we received for the CAO, and I met with members of KPR and senior administration to talk to them about how we can sort of work together and best support the needs of our community and their lobbying efforts for the managing growth, et cetera. I know those were well documented with the open house that I know a number of members of council attended to hear. And one of the data points that sticks out is the fact that our elementary schools are at 131 or 132% and 160% respectively over capacity, with no immediate plans to do it. So as is going, and as we've learned through the process, there are phases of capital requests that the province is reviewing, and there currently is an open section that we want to provide a motion, or we're looking for a motion of council to support. So I'm going to read the motion that we have generated with that conversation with the school board aloud now, and then look for a mover and a seconder. So whereas the Ministry of Education provides capital funding for new public schools within the province of Ontario, and whereas the Ministry of Education has launched the 2024-2025 Capital Priorities Program, and whereas the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, in cooperation with the County of Peterborough and the Township of Cabanmonaghan, have identified a school site within the draft approved plan of subdivision number 15T-18002, referred to as the Tower Hill North development area. And whereas the City and County of Peterborough accommodation background study indicates that 2 local elementary schools, Millbrook South Cavan Public School and North Cavan Public School, are already operating well over their respective student capacities. Millbrook South Cavan presently at 131% and North Cavan presently at 162%. And whereas the Township of Cabanmonaghan has engaged Watson and Associates Economists Limited to complete a growth management study which states recent building permit activity to active large subdivision developments in the planning approvals process suggests that housing growth will remain strong in the Millbrook urban settlement area for over the next 5 to 10 years. And whereas the same study indicates that the Township of Cabanmonaghan is anticipated to experience significant growth between 2016 to 2024, with a forecasted housing development of an average of 120 units annually compared to a historical average of 24 units annually over the past 15 years. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Cabanmonaghan supports the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board's request for capital funding to construct a new school in the Tower Hill North development area. Sorry for the long-winded nature, but we got to get all these data points in there with regards to the advocacy. So we're intending to send that letter or that motion on to the various parties involved in helping support the KPR with the advocacy with regards to the capital funding required. So any questions about the motion? Deputy Mayor Hunley?
Through you, Chair, I'm guessing that there was, within the motion, there's a lot more specifics of the capacity of those schools because it's actually missing in the letter. And I'm just a little bit worried that if I was receiving the letter, it isn't giving me any of those numbers. So I guess the question is, when we submit to the province, do we expect the province to actually read the motion where those numbers are real, or do we go back to the school board and say, why didn't you put these overages inside this letter rather than just generically say that they're over? Like, I would rather see that data in that letter than I would in a motion.
It's not my intention to send their letter. Their letter is their prerogative. It's my intention to put a motion forward that we send advocating and supporting KPR in their advocacy for the capital investment that only the province and the Ministry of Education can approve. The ministry, or the school board likes to, it's a political entity, so it needs to be careful in the sensitivity of the advocacy, because I think they're optimistic for any funding, but there is no guarantee that any funding, even with these demands and these specific statistics, will come. So that's why I thought they needed to be in the motion, so that it quantifies the urgentness that is the current situation. And what concerned me the most about the plan and the presented, various opportunities for how they're going to adjust boundaries, et cetera, the school board, there was no discussion or seeming recognition of the fact that these capacities are already in place. And we have yet to see the full accumulation of growth from the new subdivision, let alone the future subdivisions that we're under planning. So this is just how, unfortunately, it's a shame that these things have to come after, growth, when growth has been, sort of underway for quite some time. And we've been working with the school board over the last, 8 years since I've been around, but I know it's predates that significantly to sort of recognize this growth plan. But unfortunately, the province needs the numbers evident before they'll fund it. So you're kind of put in a circumstance where the existing student body has to struggle with overcapacity. Then there's a sort of recognition. So I hope that provides a bit of clarity. Yeah, I would like the letter to be different from the school board, but they're not going to change it because we asked them. They're doing their own advocacy, and we need to do our own as well, supporting the general tonality of it all, but really quantifying it from a local basis as to we really need this to be factored in, because it was already outlined in one of the initial submissions, but it was given secondary status, not primary. And so now this is the second wave of this funding for this year and we really need this to get up and running sooner than later. So that's the intent. I hope that provides a bit of clarity. Questions about the motion, Councillor Byrne?
Through the chair, well, just mention that they're putting a new roof on North Cabin, so hopefully the school board doesn't close it next year. But I'm shocked that this hasn't already been done 2 or 3 times, trying to get this funding. When they already knew they were getting the land, everything was in the works. I kind of shocked that at this point in the game, we're doing this.
Well, I don't want to give you the rough history of the Ministry of Education, but there's been all kinds of attempts at advocacy, and it's taken a significant amount of working together to figure out exactly how all the keystone pieces move around. And unfortunately, there's not the ability from the school board to even submit information for a potential capital build until the land is under ownership of the school board. So even though it's been identified, there's a certain, I think is it the building permit stage, or there's some sort of formal stage? No, it's not just servicing, it's registration on title. So until the land is actually registered to the school board, they can't even submit it as a site. So that has been a part of the issue, is that they can't even take ownership of the land until all of these checks and balances, which come later in the development game, they can't even submit it as a potential site for funding until it's theirs. So it's kind of like, it's an ineffective way of planning for growth, and certainly, obviously, for the student bodies that are suffering under 162% capacity is an issue. And in the conversations, I think we've had some interesting conversations that they're re-looking at expanding North Cabin, whereas we were told originally that that was not something that they believe feasible. And we said, I think you should look again, because you're really doing a lot of intensification at the Millbrook South Cabin public school site, and there are subsequent similar, space available at the North Cabot site. And certainly, I mean, portables are not the best solution, but it's certainly better than, 162% capacity in the small building that's there now. So whether it's redevelopment, whether it's all those things, they would also say in KPRs, and I think it's true, there is a moratorium right now on new school construction. So part of the implications for our school being constructed is the fact that there is a new school that's built in the city of Peterborough that has some capacity. That has influence and impacts on ours, but that's been more of a conversation piece for the high school reallocation. But we all know that our 7-8s have just been, I think it was 3 years ago now, have just been moved over to Crestwood, and they're already exceeding 100% of capacity there. And we're still at 130 and 162 here. So that didn't solve anyone's problem. It's just created a new set of problems. But hopefully with this advocacy is really all we can do. We're having conversations with all of the, hopefully in lockstep and working together now that we know the lay of the land, that we're ready to go. The site has been registered. Now's the time we don't want to, sorry, it's about to be registered, but we are in the final stages of that. And so we need to strike while the iron's hot and make sure that by the fall, when this period goes, that we hopefully advocate and make the best case for this funding. Councillor Nacho?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Do you think it would behoove us to maybe solicit the endorsement or advocacy of MPP Scott with this memo? Like, I can't see that it would hurt, but would this be something that you would think we should add to it to give it even, a little bit more teeth?
Yeah, we can definitely circulate it in addition to MPP Scott. I don't think that there's any harm in that. she and I have had conversations about this issue, so I know she's supportive and understands the growth that we are accommodating has, vis-a-vis our subsequent requirements and needs that need to be met. So I'll definitely be bringing this up on our next call. I think it's next week, and we'll definitely have that there, but we can add that in regards to the motion. So, all right. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a mover and a seconder for that motion as presented. Councillor Natchoff, Councillor Edgerton, all in favor? That is approved. Thank you, council, for that. And next is another correspondence for action item, and that is that I believe with regards to, I think all of us are aware with regards to some of the developments in the utilities, barriers to utilities or the lack thereof, sufficient capacity in utilities that staff have been working really hard over the last year and a half or more to get the answers as to what capacities do exist. So it was my intention under correspondence for action that I know the Premier has always said that mayors should reach out and correspond with him directly. And we've had a number of conversations and meetings with various minister level entities to sort of say, like, there's a process issue here because commenting agencies are providing comments on plans of subdivision without any relevance or understanding of what the capacity constraints are. So what's the merit in their comments? If you're not going to tell us that there's capacity or there might be a capacity problem, their comment is really fruitless, and that causes these massive delays. And, not only that, there's a significant certain fiscal costs that come with that infrastructure as well. So the intent was to send a letter to the Premier. In addition, I think it makes sense to send it to the Federal Minister of Municipal and Infrastructure as well. To send a similar letter to both of them advocating for, and I'll read the motion, that council support the mayor and the staff to send a letter to the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities of Canada outlining council's concerns with the delay and associated costs with the utility services that are required to meet the growth targets in capital money. So that's the motion. We haven't drafted the letter yet. I've been playing around with it, but I wanted to get council's support to draft a letter to sort of raise the profile of our community, trying to be and facilitating the growth that the province has pushed on us through the county, and saying, you're going to have to help us work towards providing the utility infrastructure to get this done. So any questions with regards to that letter? If not, we're looking for a mover and a seconder for that motion presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? That is approved. Bylaws. So bylaw number 2024-43, zoning bylaw amendment 2097 Whittington Drive. That bylaw number 2024-43 being a zoning bylaw amendment for 2097 Whittington Drive be read a first, second, third time and passed this 12th day of August, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that bylaw? Councillor Edgerton and Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. There is no unfinished business. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, the confirming bylaw, that bylaw number 2024-44 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held August 12th, 2024, be read a first, second, third time and passed this 12th day of August, signed by the mayor and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Counselor Natchez, Counselor Byrne, all in favor? That is approved. Lastly, a motion to adjourn. Counselor Natchez, Deputy Mayor Huntley, all in favor? That is approved. There are a number of upcoming events and meetings, so you'll have to bear with me. On Thursday, this Thursday, August 15th at 7 PM at the CMCC, we have our outdoor movie night brought to us by our partners at OLG. So I believe it's Kung Fu Panda. I'm not sure if there's a number associated with that, but there will, number 4. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Allison. Kung Fu Panda 4 is the feature film, so we'll look forward to seeing that. The next regular council meeting is Tuesday, September 3rd at 1 PM. There is a special council meeting, which is a presentation and information workshop from Town Hall Consulting with regards to strategic planning. That is on Monday, September 9th from 10 AM to 4 PM. There is no live streaming or in-person, there is in-person attendance, but there is no public participation. It's really for a meet and greet and an information session for the consultant to meet council and discuss the sort of the foundations for that planning. Also of note, on Friday, September 13th at 4 PM between Needler's Mill and the old Millbrook Arena, we are excited to host another installment of the Harvest Table Dinner. So we'll look forward to that. Tickets are available both at the township office and the CMCC. You have to buy them in person. I think we're restricted to a maximum of about 150, if I'm not mistaken. So get your tickets soon, and we'll look forward to celebrating our agricultural heritage in the community at that great event that we're looking forward to again on September 13th, Friday night. Yep. Okay, I did that one. And there is another special council meeting, which is Landscape Planning Limited, which is another educational workshop similar to the other one that I mentioned on September 16th from 9 AM to 12 PM with no live stream available as well. And we encourage people to fill out the online surveys that are available in the lobby as well as at the libraries and at the municipal office and the CMCC, but also available online, which is the feedback for the downtown park that we're under planning for and taking public comment on. The next regular council meeting after that is Monday, September 16th at 1 PM. There is a special council meeting, Town Hall Consulting on Tuesday, September 17th at 10 AM to 4 PM. Again, no live stream, in person only in the council chambers. The Cavan Monaghan Public Library Board meeting is Tuesday, September 17th at 7 PM at the Millbrook branch. The Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting is Thursday, September 19th at 9 AM. The Sustainability Advisory Committee is Friday, September 20th at 1 PM. And Millbrook Valley Trails meets on September 23rd at 4 PM in the council chambers. That is the list of events. I hope everyone enjoys the last few weeks of August, and we will see you in September. Thank you, everyone, and